Welcome, everyone, to Pod and Gore, your one-stop shop for everything horror. Now here's your hosts, Justin and Brandon. Take it away, boys.
My name is Justin.
My name is Brandon.
Welcome
To Pod and Gore.
Indeed. You beat me to it.
I did. Get used to that.
Indeed. I'm super excited to get this show started. We can finally talk some blood, guts, and murderous rampages.
Oh, I've been waiting a long time for this.
I know. And welcome, everybody, to the show. And we're so glad you're joining us for our first episode, and we hope that you continue to join us for however many more we do.
Exactly. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Super excited.
Yeah.
I don't even know what to say. I am fucking flustered and excited and already dropping F-bombs.
It's going to be just amazing.
I know. A couple minutes in, and we're all ready to go.
Well, we're talking about bloody, disgusting murder, so the occasional F-bomb is, it's fucking acceptable. I don't know if we actually, I intended to tell you guys what our first episode was going to be at the end of episode 0, and I don't think I did.
No, we didn't. We said that, I think we said we would let them know. No, we didn't say anything about it, did we? We just said that we're ready to get into episode 1. And then
we didn't say what it was going to be.
Just went silent.
We're just so excited, but thankfully episode 1's coming right at the same time as 0.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can read up in the headline of this episode title, you already know what it is.
It should be obvious.
But I picked for our first episode the first Nightmare on Elm Street.
Oh yeah,
it's one of my favorites. He's one of my favorite characters.
He's top 3.
Yeah.
Easy. And I totally forgot. Like, I almost feel like Freddy, I don't know if, saying that he's underrated is the term I want to use.
Yeah.
But I feel like sitting down to watch this movie, it had been such a long time since I watched it. I forgot how good it actually was. And everybody knows and loves Freddy, but you don't really hear him mentioned as much as you would, your Michaels or Jasons.
Yeah. And he's been so out of the loop as far as, new content for so long. I mean,
teasing with coming back, or I'm not coming back, or, then coming back for the Goldbergs and then saying I'm not coming back because I'm going to do a TV show.
Right. And the last movie was 2011, I think.
Oh, what, the remake?
Yeah.
Was that... I want to say 2009. It might have been 2011. But yeah, it's been...
Because I'm pretty sure the remake of Friday the 13th was 2009.
That's what that was. Okay.
And then Nightmare on Elm Street was 2011. Yeah.
2010.
2010. We
April
were both
30th.
wrong.
April 30th. It's on your goddamn wall. And we were both like, I wonder what day it was or what year. And it's like...
Yeah, I have the one sheet. Double-sided movie poster
you got
of the
wrong
remake
poster,
right above my...
But you got it.
You can get me the original. I'll hang it up.
No, I'm good.
I've always loved Freddy as a character. I love the idea of him. To me, he's the most terrifying. The look of him and just the idea that you cannot escape him. With Jason, don't go to fucking Camp Crystal Lake.
Right. Don't go fucking in the woods.
Yeah, just don't go to the woods.
Yeah. Stay away from New Jersey.
Yeah, don't go to Haddonfield.
Right.
If you don't want Michael Myers to fuck around with you, don't go to his house.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't think that filming like a reality TV show in the house is a good idea.
It never was.
Right? Oh, resurrection. But yeah, it is true because while he's a more comedic character, I think, and that was
in his worst times.
More later on, but like in the movies, like king of the one-liners.
Yeah.
Bitch.
See, and that's the stuff that I don't particularly care for. I like the scary aspect of it.
Right.
And the idea that eventually you either have to sleep and then he can get you, or you will die from not sleeping and he gets you anyway.
Can you imagine dying from not sleeping? God, that
sounds terrible.
So,
he's always been one of my favorites. So for me, having the honor and privilege of picking our first topic, I could not pick Nightmare on Elm Street.
Right.
So
I'm super excited to get into it. I mean, you got a lot to talk about.
So let's get into it.
I'll do my best to chime in because I watched this movie, but looking at the notes, apparently I did not pay attention as much as I thought I did, and I just got off work before I came here, so I don't have my notes.
Fair enough.
This is my
You're a
first.
dickhead.
This is my first podcast. I'm not
know.
the expert.
That's why I'm here.
It's debatable.
Uh,
We're at
so-
your house too, so
Yeah. So I can kick you out whenever I
Oh.
want.
all right.
I can just finish the show without you and
Right.
push stop.
Yeah, fuck you, bye.
Okay, bye.
Yeah.
So we're going to start off with a little bit of history on the production before we get into our review. So this was released on November 9th, 1984, with a budget of $1.8 million. Without looking at the notes, how much do you think this would make in 84?
And don't look at this number right here that
That
I'd already
says-
looked at when you
yeah.
said that.
I mean,
I'm gonna guess it was 25.5 million.
you're right.
Oh wow!
That's so crazy.
Oh.
I mean, to think about that,
I'm good
though,
at
I
math.
mean, one of the reasons that studios make horror movies is because they're cheap and they do make money, but the idea of something that it's made, 25 times its budget,
Right.
that's nuts. Almost. Like 24 times its budget.
I'd probably go closer to maybe 12 times its budget since it was almost $2 million.
No. Shut up.
Oh, I got you on the math this time.
Hey, I've been doing math all day. Just leave me alone. It was written and directed by Wes Craven, of course. If you don't know that, welcome to the show.
Go away. Just kidding.
But then come back.
Yeah, come back.
Hey, this is all about experiencing new things. If you haven't watched this movie before, it's going to get spoiled, by the way. So go
But
watch
it also came out 34 years ago, 35 years ago.
Got you on math.
Well, I don't.
84.
Oh, November, almost 35 years ago.
Yeah.
Well, it came out a year before I was born. Well, actually, like 8 months before I was born.
Came out almost exactly 3 years before I was born.
No, that's weird.
That is weird. It stars Heather Langenkamp, John Saxon, Robert Englund, and the feature film debut of Johnny Depp.
Of a one baby face Johnny Depp.
What's so crazy, I mean, you see him in that, and to think of where he is now,
Right.
controversy and things aside, I mean,
He's still
Pirates of the
Jack Sparrow.
Caribbean and Edward Scissorhands.
He's a vampire.
Yeah.
I
mean, he's
doesn't
done-
age.
Yeah. I mean, he's
Slowly
done
turning into Keith Richards.
sometimes less slowly.
Right.
It's just amazing. The film was inspired by a series of articles that Wes Craven read in the LA Times about some Southeast Asian refugees that were suffering disturbing nightmares and refusing to sleep, and then dying in their sleep soon after.
That's
Yeah.
one hell of a fucking article to read.
Yeah, and it happened a lot.
Oh, so
It
okay.
was like an ongoing. He read like 3 or 4 different occurrences of this thing happening.
okay.
And then Freddy Krueger is drawn from Craven's early life. One night, apparently, a young Craven saw an elderly man walking on the side path outside the window of his house, and the man stopped to glance at Craven, and it scared the crap out of him, and he walked off.
Well, yeah.
And
Yeah,
it
that
was-
made me feel weird just thinking about it because I remember there was a time when I was younger and I was supposed to be asleep and I looked out the window and I could have swear, and this is, I haven't really talked about this, but like, because it's embarrassing.
we're here to share.
Yeah, I mean, nobody's listening, right? So, like, something similar to where I looked out the window and it was like almost like something out of a horror movie because generally streetlights don't shine just right down
Onto
in a
one
cone, in the middle of the fucking road. And I look out there and there's just like this weird, like hunched over figure looking at me. And it looked almost like, I don't remember which album it was, but the weird red and black painted fucking album cover of Poison with the tongue looking right at me. It was like, what the hell? But no, it's weird how shit like that
Yeah.
stays with you, and I wish I would have used that to come up with an idea for a
horror icon.
Yeah, a
that
horror
would
icon,
last
an
30
amazing
years.
franchise. I wouldn't be a truck driver, that's for sure.
Craven chose to make Krueger's sweater red and green after reading an article in a 1982 Scientific American that said those two colors were the most clashing colors to the human retina to see at the same time.
Right.
Which I think is interesting because of Christmas.
Right. Yeah.
Like, it's
but like with the shading of those, like, I mean, yeah, it's red and green, but like it is a brutal brutal red.
Well, yeah, in the especially the originals, the newer one, they kind of muted them.
Yeah, it was
little
toned
bit,
down a little bit.
yeah.
It made it a little bit brighter.
Yeah.
It seemed like.
Mm-hmm.
But oh yeah,
This I found super interesting. So the first studio to show interest in this movie about a child murderer was Walt Disney Productions.
Which is kind of funny if you think about the conspiracies like about Walt Disney and all that kind of stuff leading into his personal life.
Yeah.
That not so weird. But yeah, it'd be like, Disney presents a Nightmare on Elm Street with a pedo child murderer.
But Craven declined, said he didn't want to change it and make it more family friendly because Disney wanted it to be suitable for kids for some reason.
Yeah, so let's pick up a horror movie.
Yeah.
No, I'm so glad that he declined that because I mean, if you think about if Disney approaches you and says, we're interested in this, you just have to compromise your vision, tone it down, make it a little bit more suitable. I mean, Disney money now is obviously not Disney money then, but it's still Disney. Mm-hmm. And to be like, no, I'm good.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely takes someone with a very strong vision and like, no, that's not what this is.
Right.
Move on. And yeah, that is impressive. There's tons more to go into, but if you want to know more, because we're not going to spend the whole episode on the history of this, I definitely recommend watching Never Sleep Again.
Right, and that actually comes with the box set. The old school box set, because I think I have it.
I have it, but I just bought it. You can get it on Amazon or wherever. I think it was on Netflix for a while. Right. Or Hulu.
Well, and to think about it, like looking at what Wes Craven had done leading up to that, in 72 he did Last House on the Left.
That's pretty big.
That is huge. And then in 77 to do The Hills Have Eyes. Then have Summer of Fear, Deadly Blessing. He did Swamp Thing in 82.
Yeah, this was right after Swamp Thing, or he started it right after Swamp Thing.
Right, because then, in 84 he had The Hills Have Eyes Part 2, and then he did Elm Street. So,
he was already pretty well established, and he was willing to do. Was the first Swamp Thing R?
Let me check right here. No, it was PG. Actually,
okay. Which in back then PG is PG-13. I mean, might as well be.
Right. But yeah, it was PG. But actually looking in this though, I didn't see what he did, but he was on an episode of The Magical World of Disney in 1986. So he obviously didn't close that door, but he was involved with something. And holy shit, there's a lot of. Okay.
Yeah, he's done a lot of stuff.
Yeah, he has. I'm all going through and I'm like, oh yeah, I knew he did that. Oh wow, a musical too.
But yeah, there's definitely a ton more to get into, and the documentary goes into the entire franchise, and it's incredibly long and drawn out and stuff. So if you want more,
well, yeah, if you're a fan of the franchise, definitely check it out because it may be a long watch, but it's definitely keeps you into fascinating.
We'll probably end up doing an episode on just that documentary eventually.
Yeah, I'm down.
Yeah.
I'm not going to pick it, but we're down. All right, so we'll go ahead.
You're still going to have to watch it.
Oh, darn. All right, so we'll hop into the movie notes?
Yeah.
Alrighty.
So, watching this for the first time in a very long time was an interesting experience. It's always weird getting your head into the 80s mentality of some of these movies and the pacing and the corny as balls dialogue.
Rod.
Shitty Rod.
God damn it. Yeah, that's the one thing that stood out to me was, I mean, the acting was pretty par for the course for being the early to mid 80s, but goddamn Rod. That dude. Yeah, your classic bad boy.
Yeah, douchebag.
Yeah.
That you can't wait to see die. But we'll get into that a little bit later.
Right.
I loved the opening where he was making the glove. I kind of forgot about that scene. And
Awesome.
it's so great and creepy seeing him assemble it and file down the nails and knives and shit, and just
because it's a genius weapon.
yeah.
I mean, finger knives. You know, like
It's so handy.
I fucking hate you. All right, we're done after episode 1, guys. It's been a good run. How dare you? After listening to you for years, you think that I would have saw that coming, but I did not.
You never do.
You
I
never
just
do.
Swipe them right in. So nice. I don't know. It sets a tone, and it's a cool weapon of choice, and I think it's probably the most iconic horror weapon.
Well, yeah, it has to be, because if you think, Michael uses a butcher knife, Jason uses a machete, they're all generic.
Yeah.
I mean, and Leatherface, chainsaw.
Yeah.
Like, nobody really has...
Even Ghostface uses the kitchen knife too.
Well, yeah, his knife was more of like a, what's that black-handled, chromed out.
Yeah, it's not the
hunting
exact.
knife.
It's not like a butcher knife kind of
It's
thing.
more
but
flashy than anything. Yeah. But no, yeah, it really does. And in fact, after watching this movie, I went and I played a few rounds of Dead by Daylight as Freddy.
Nice.
Just to kind of walk around with the glove, doing his little.
I should have played some Mortal Kombat 9.
Oh shit! Oh shit! Oh, with the fucking hands coming out of the ground. Yeah,
So awesome.
it is good.
Possibly one of my favorite scenes in the movie, though, is that opening nightmare of Tina's. And what I really like about it, and it's something that they do also in the remake, is they kind of make you think that she's our protagonist.
Right.
I mean, it's kind of this bait and switch. They kind of, well, I was going to say they almost do it again in Scream, but not quite, because it's pretty...
Well, they did that with Drew Barrymore.
Yeah.
They kind of made you... Well, I mean, because she was such a big star.
Yeah.
Being killed off immediately. Like, we'll get into that when we talk about Scream, because we're going to talk about Scream.
You have to.
I mean, that's a given.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be surprised if it comes sooner rather than later.
Yeah. Probably not my next pick, but very soon after, I would imagine.
It'll be coming, because I actually am looking forward to watching that again.
Mm-hmm. It's been a long time.
It has been a very long time.
But it's such an interesting, because you stay with Tina for a while. I thought she died a lot sooner, but she actually sticks around for quite a ways before they finally have the whole rod thing.
Right. Well, I mean, that dream sequence was a few minutes long, and then it went from that to the school.
Yeah.
And then it was that night that she died.
Okay, it just seemed longer. How about that? It seemed like it was a ways. It wasn't like an immediate, 2 seconds later she was dead. You just...
I'm going off of yours because I didn't bring my notes. I'm trying to participate.
I know. Yeah, we kind of already talked about Rod the horror dick. I mean, almost every horror franchise, especially these early ones, have those archetypes of, it's the good girl, it's the bad boy, it's the jock, it's the nerd.
Cliches before they were cliches.
Yeah, these set the standard for what will be cliches now.
Yeah, that was one of my things that I got from the movie, was just the one-liners from this guy.
You don't want up your nose with the twirling lawnmower?
With the twirling lawnmower.
Yo.
Fucking throw the arms up. Get out of here, Rob.
Hey, forget about it.
Well, I mean, that sequence was just hilarious when I woke up with a heart-on with your name on it, and then just to get burnt, and then to have Johnny Depp look at you in your face and laugh.
If you can make Johnny Depp laugh, you're doing something right. Or wrong.
Right.
In Rod's case.
But, oh, man, yeah. The dialogue with him especially. There were a few others, but you get the point.
Yeah. The next thing I took notes and actually brought mine. It's weird.
Well, you didn't have to go anywhere to get them.
Yeah, because I was smart and put them on my phone.
Yeah.
You dope.
Oh.
Just one. That was the last one.
Okay.
Probably.
I'm fucking wreck something in here.
One of the most iconic scenes in the movie, I think.
Oh.
Aside from the bathtub, which we'll get to later, is him coming out of the walls.
Which, that was... thinking back on this, when you think of these horror movies, and you have Halloween, which is my personal favorite.
Mm-hmm.
Said a lot of, I don't necessarily say cliches, but like
Staples.
yeah, I mean, it wasn't the first to do what it did, but it did what it did very well.
Yeah, it was the first to like perfect it.
Right. And like, we'll go into the deep dives when we cover Halloween. There's more to that, but like, you think of Halloween and then you think of Friday the 13th, which is very successful in its own right. But like they said when they came out with it, they're like, just do what Halloween did. Just like straight, like it's quoted, straight rip Halloween.
Yeah.
And then they did it. And I mean, watching it, you wouldn't think it's a straight rip.
Yeah.
Like it's its own movie and it's,
because it adds enough spokes to the wheel,
right,
to make you think it's different.
Exactly.
It's not as rip-offy as some of the other ones where it's like,
but then you think of Nightmare on Elm Street and you're watching it and like you don't get the vibes of like, oh, you know, I remember seeing this in something else or something like that. Like it, and it might have, you know, borrowed things from other movies and I just might not have seen them, but like the concept's unique. It kind of did its own thing and it didn't blatantly come from something else, you know?
Well, yeah, and Craven sets a tone, and he does, and that's, again, the thing that I love about Freddy is you can do things with him you can't do with other characters because it doesn't make sense, doesn't work, it's not part of their MO. The wall gag, one, it's awesome because it's a practical effect. They covered the wall with plastic or something.
Right, something
like
stretchy.
Yeah, the stretchy rubber, and he just pressed on it really hard with his,
cool.
and then he went back, and then he
Frightener
pressed
style.
it again.
So cool.
Yeah. And, you know, the remake did it as well, and it wasn't quite as good, though I like that he was able to, like, reach around.
I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I should probably rewatch the remake. I don't think I've seen it since, I would probably say, summer of 2010.
Well, don't worry. Eventually you will.
I will. I'll get there at some point.
The other thing is the stretchy arms when he's going down, and this is, I believe, when he kills Tina.
Yeah, because he's going down the alley.
Yeah, and they did that with, I don't know if they were paper mache arms, but they were like guys up on the roofs with like fishing line.
Oh, really?
Holding the arms.
I was going to say, because I mean, like, you can tell it's a practical effect. Like, you could see, like, it's
dangly.
Yeah, it's not.
It's
sturdy.
like when they used paper mache arms for the original Fantastic Four in '94.
Still better than Fox Fantastic Four. But yeah, I remember watching that part, and like I'll give them credit for it being a practical effect. But yeah, it's very dangly.
They're a touch droopy. It's like when Bugs Bunny makes a muscle and then it goes away.
I wasn't ready for that. A little floppy down. I got you.
But it leads to probably one of my favorite scenes. No spoilers for the scorecard later. But Tina's death and the whole flying around the room, it's so creepy. And when Freddy chops off his own fingers to freak her out, and she peels off his face when she's fighting him off, like, to me, that encompasses more of what Freddy is about.
Yeah, mine, like, fucking with your head.
Yeah.
You know.
And brutal. I mean, when she's just being flung around that room and blood squirting everywhere and she falls back on the bed.
Now, did they introduce, because, like, I know that they did with Freddy versus Jason, that it was his power was more fear-based and, like, people are forgetting him, so he was, like, fading off. Like, was that introduced in that movie, or did they lead up to it? Because it's
kind of.
I was gonna say, because I don't remember him from the originals, but it's been a long time since it's probably been a couple years since I've like binged them.
Mm-hmm. Well, we'll get into like what depowers him at the end, because of course they have to defeat him at the end.
Right. I was just more curious about if that was something that they introduced later on, or if it was something that I missed in this movie.
It's something you missed in this movie. Oh. And well, another. Not to skip around too much, but it's one of my kind of peeves with this movie is it doesn't really seem to be set up that well. It just happens.
Okay.
But we'll get into it when we get to the end.
But yeah, cutting the fingers off, that was pretty rad.
Mm-hmm.
That was pretty rad. And that just shows you that either his hands are really flimsy or those knives are goddamn sharp.
Yeah.
Like,
Or both.
or both. Yeah. Or both.
But
yeah. No, yep.
but
No, I was just gonna say, yeah, no, that scene with Tina and flying around the ceiling
yeah.
was pretty epic.
Yeah, I mean, it's so visceral and so brutal, and as much as you hate Rod, you kind of feel for him in that moment because he's so helpless.
Right.
And I'm pretty sure this was the scene where they used the rotating room.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense because of the way that she flopped around.
Yeah, and the actor was just like stationary and tied down, and they flipped the room around.
Mm-hmm. That sounds about right. I think I remember hearing something about that.
I'm pretty sure this is the one where that was. I haven't watched the documentary in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
But the part that I didn't get was this brutal murder takes place.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this girl's friend dies with the sleepover, part of this school, but they go to school the next day.
Yeah.
And nobody seems to care or really notice that she died quite brutally by someone else, supposedly, who went to the school.
Right. I mean, you think about it, kids will come up with any excuse not to go to school, and now you have a valid reason being like, my friend was murdered by her boyfriend, supposedly.
And I was there.
And I could hear it. And...
But no one else at the school even seems to care. Like, they're all just like, oh,
fuck it.
English. That, yeah,
like, that Tina, she had it coming. You know?
Bitch.
Yeah, we told her not to date that Rod kid.
And what was with the lawnmower jokes? Every day with the lawnmower jokes. It didn't work.
Right. But yeah, no, that didn't, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
At all. And, like, I thought about it, too, about going in and watching all the, like, movie mistakes and plot holes of the movie, but work did not pan out the way I wanted it to this week. And so...
Maybe next week.
Yeah, we'll go into it.
But I did like Nancy falling asleep in school and getting her first taste of Freddy. Well, I mean, not her first, but our first look into what she sees.
Right.
And Tina in the body bag is another one of those iconic, cool visuals from this franchise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and to show you the insane boiler rooms at a high school.
Yeah.
Like, that looked like a refinery to me. You know, it might have been his world, but I thought about that. I'm like, that's like a factory, man. Like, that's not underneath any school.
Well, that's kind of the point. It's just falling into there's a worse one later, so...
Okay. Well,
the basement inside the basement.
Oh, God. Okay.
But... You know, I kind of like it because there's a bit of symbology there in the idea of going down. You're entering down into the dream world. Right. And you're drifting down into sleep and into his realm, and it's his world, bitch. And
oh, it would not be a nightmare episode if we didn't throw in a bitch every once in a while.
You have to.
You do.
The Rick and Morty episode alone. And I like that she really held her arm against that steam pipe for a very long time.
That's actually was in one of my notes that I think about because I wrote down clever girl.
A nod to Jurassic Park?
I was going to say not talking about Jurassic Park.
But did you notice that the burn was like just a barely sunburn?
No. God damn it. No.
It was just this little pink, like if you burn yourself on like a pan kind of burn. And not to pick this movie apart because I love it, but it's these little things that we just have to have some fun with. Because if you held your arm onto a steam pipe for that long, and she held it on there a long time.
We're talking, you might leave something on that pipe when you're
there'd
done.
be some, like, after you peeled it off.
Right.
It looked like someone just put some pink marker on her arm. I'm sure she'll be fine.
And it falls under the $1.8 million budget. They have some Crayola markers.
They were just lying around.
Well, they were out of school. So.
Let's see. I missed my spot here. Oh yeah. I hate that I feel like I'm picking this movie apart already.
Get used to it, guys, because he's going to say this a lot.
Yeah.
In the future.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, I really like it. I mean, are we talking about a DC movie now, or are we talking about Nightmare on Elm Street?
Wow. No, you'll know because I won't apologize for ripping into that.
Oh, I'll make you apologize.
But, okay, did you think it was strange that Nancy was able to just walk up to Rod's cell?
Well, putting it like that, yeah.
Like, he's in jail for murder. Brutal murder.
Right.
And I know her dad's a cop, but she just, like, walks up right up to his cell.
Now,
and everyone's cool with that?
Okay, so then I'm remembering back on the scene. At what point did she went up to the cell and then she left and then she was outside and then she could see down into Rod's cell?
That was later.
That was
when Rod dies.
That is when he dies.
Right before he dies.
Okay.
But earlier when she's like, what happened in there? She's able to just like go up to his old-timey prison cell with open bars.
She's a junior detective.
She has a badge and everything.
She's got her sticker badge.
You beat me to it.
Yep.
That I don't know. Like I said, I didn't want to have 2 punches to the face in a row, but that was one of those things. Was just like,
You watched a lot of SVU. You know that people don't just get to walk up to random cells and be like,
Yeah.
hey, what happened here?
Yeah, why did you do that to her? And the other thing is, he never mentions that Tina was like rolling around on the ceiling.
Yeah.
And up the walls and shit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, wouldn't that be one of the first? Like, that's a pretty interesting thing to happen.
Yeah.
She didn't just randomly die and blood spurted out. Like, she was thrown around a room, but that never seems to come up.
Yeah. And I mean, I feel like if you tried to tell somebody that, you're like, hey, I was in there and she got dragged up the side of a wall.
Yeah.
And she was flopping around on the ceiling.
You can see the blood there, and there.
You're still going to jail, but you're going to jail as a crazy person.
Yeah.
You know, they're not, like, I could see that, but at the same time, I would have said something, but at the same time, he might have just been like, yo, fuck it, I'm going to jail anyway.
With the twirling lawnmower.
Twirling lawnmower. Okay. Now, where is this at? Where are they at again? Where's Elm Street? In fucking, like, it's Midwest, right? Illinois?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. No, Illinois is Halloween. Haddonfield's in Illinois, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Where the fuck does that... Okay, you keep talking because this is going to bug me.
All right, fine. Everything bugs you. The next thing to talk about is their introduction of the very iconic nursery rhyme and then later on the tub scene. But I thought it was interesting having her, Nancy, saying it. Mm-hmm. And I'm trying to remember now. I just watched this movie. I should remember, and you won't remember.
Fuck you. Los Angeles.
Is it?
Well, it was filmed in Los Angeles, but...
Well, that's... Everything is. Did she see the little girls with the jump rope before the tub scene?
No.
I know they're at the end with the car.
I think... No, I think it was more... I don't think...
It had happened?
No, because I think that... Well, that's the second interaction with Freddy.
Right.
Which,
but I don't remember that's happening in her first dream.
No, but okay, so she fell asleep at the school.
Yeah.
And then she fell asleep in the bathtub.
Yeah, and that's where we're at right now.
Right, she fell asleep in the bathtub, but I don't know if they showed a vision of her dreaming before the hand come out of the water.
Yeah, no, and they don't really have I mean, the nightmare is her under the water, but I was just trying to think about that when she would have known, if it's just something from her mind that's coming out, or maybe it was part of some of her initial dreams. I feel like there was a reference to the rhyme early in the movie. You know,
and thinking back, like watching this movie, I remember it standing out that there was an absence. Like it wasn't as prominent part of it. Like, it's emphasized later on. Mm-hmm. Like it's full bore.
Yeah.
And this one, like I don't remember hearing it a whole lot.
Yeah, I mean, it was really... I feel like it was mentioned earlier, and then she says it in the tub, which I thought was really cool, because we all know the, 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you rhyme, and then they show the girls skipping rope at the end. Mm-hmm. I don't know. It was just a thing. But I love the tub scene.
Yeah.
Very iconic.
Classic.
And how awkward it would be to be the person, having to do that particular
Sign
grab.
me up. I'm in the wrong business. Yeah.
No, we need new jobs.
Yeah, we do. I spend too much time on the road.
Or not enough. But it's such a cool, I don't know, it's a cool visual that leads to a cool gag of her getting pulled under the tub into the water, and she's like drowning, and it's like he's pulling her in to the water.
Well, I like that it being such an iconic shot, and to the fact that like she is such in a vulnerable position.
Yeah.
But it wasn't sexualized.
Yeah, it wasn't. But it does kind of give you that, like, she's alone, locked in a bathroom, naked in a tub. She hasn't slept for at least a day or two by now.
Mm-hmm.
And now this clawed hand is coming from between her legs.
Well, and I think that's kind of a theme, though. That happens more and more throughout the like the sheets. I think that's New Nightmare, but
yeah, I think so.
But it does become a theme, though, where he does come up between the legs and then towards her.
Well, in looking this up, originally he was going to be a child molester and murderer, but at the time, particularly in California, there was a bunch of child molester cases actually happening in the real world, and so to be more sensitive and lenient to that, they kind of
toned it down.
Yeah, they toned that down and made him he's a child murderer.
Okay.
And then the creepy stuff came in and was emphasized later on.
Okay.
And then went away when it turned into Looney Tunes, and then came back. And I'm gonna rip into some of the
sequels.
I feel bad talking bad about this
Dream
one.
Warriors.
No,
don't fucking hate on Dawkins. We'll fight in this room.
It always sticks out in my head. I think it's from 5. He, those tire spikes that they put across the road, like that cops put across the road to stop a car. Freddy, with his back, pushing a roll of those across the road, and then he huffs and puffs and does this exaggerated, exhausted look like Bugs Bunny would do. That is always stuck in my brain as just the shittiest, dumbest,
But see, when you take something like that, and then you take, what was it, in 3, with the tendon puppets?
Yeah.
Like, that was so genius.
And that's creepy as shit.
That's what I mean.
Gross.
Like, when you think about the cheesy, and then you have something that, like, they're either going to do something really dumb, or they're going to do something that's going to blow your mind.
They went dumb.
Yeah, so I should keep a tally of how many times we're going to compare Freddy to Bugs Bunny.
Just that movie. Like, that scene just pesters the shit out of me, because to me, it's not Freddy. I know a lot of people like the goofy shit.
Right.
It's,
he is definitely known for that more later on, but I do agree that
it's like liking Roger Moore Bond over a Sean Connery or Daniel Craig.
Right.
Like, some people just prefer that more lighthearted tone, but I go serious.
I like the darker as well.
Well,
so
that's
is
why
that
we
going to be
friends.
Right? Is that going to be the name of the episode? Is Freddy the Bugs Bunny of the horror world?
We'll have to remember that when we do it.
Right.
Let's see, where am I at? I love the sticky stairs.
See, I don't remember the sticky stairs.
She's running up the stairs in one of her dreams, and her feet keep going into the stairs. It's they're in cement or oatmeal.
And I know what you're talking about now, and that's just from memory. I don't remember that scene. I might have been tending to my kid while it was playing or something.
We don't need those kind of excuses. You're not going to play in my sympathies here.
I don't give a shit about your sympathies.
But I love him coming through the mirror and all that. I don't know. There are just so many cool gags.
There really are.
And I have to say, my note here, the way I wrote it, because I think it's funny. I don't know if you will, but Rod hanging out in his cell.
Son of a bitch. Yeah, and that's another thing, guys, is his notes. Not only is he punny and vocally punny, but his notes are written in puns as well. And it's something he takes pride in.
I do.
You really do.
I think they're clever. No one else seems to, but I think they're funny. And that's what I'm all about.
Somebody has to.
Well, and this thing, like, I feel kind of bad. This is when I kind of feel bad for Rod because, yeah, he's...
Kind of feel
You
bad.
kind of feel bad because he's, the rubber hose guy. But...
All right, yeah.
He wasn't responsible for Tina's death. He couldn't do anything to stop it. He's being kind of railroaded by the system here.
Well, yeah, it's because of that cliche. He's your bad boy.
Yeah.
And he's the easy. Oh, it was the shitty douchebag boyfriend that did it, and
yeah.
It's almost like a redeeming quality. Like, it's almost like, how shitty can we make this guy, and then how far can we bring him back? And
yeah. And to me, it almost kind of worked. I mean, there's not quite enough development there to make me actually feel bad for him.
Right.
But it is one of those things, and it's also one of the more, I would say, tame deaths.
Yeah.
We talked about it earlier, there's not a lot of death in this movie.
Well, and
really.
I think that's what that it's done well.
Yeah.
It's like in Halloween, 3 deaths.
Yeah.
But that movie is so suspenseful that you don't have to be cutting people in half and mowing them down. That, like...
Yeah, as much as I love the new one, and that has a death every, 30 seconds, it seems like, especially when he gets loose.
Yeah.
Having this level of built-in suspense and drama, I think, is one of the reasons why these characters have lasted as long.
Right, and it's all quality over quantity, I guess. Like, when you're able to build up that tension in between the kills, and there's, they stand out more, opposed to, like, being like, well, how graphic can we make this? Like, folding somebody in half with a folding bed, just, those will stand out because you don't see those often. But like,
it's so weird that it
stands
like
out.
freezing the girl's face and the.
I still think that even with the sleeping bag kill, that is my favorite Friday the 13th kill, is the nitrogen
face
face.
smash. It's definitely a visual that you remember.
Oh yeah. In a movie that you don't.
If you're lucky. So Nancy comes back from a dream with Freddy's hat.
Right, yeah.
I wish we had seen that dream. That's the one that I kind of wish that, out of all the ones that we didn't see, like, I don't mind not seeing Rod's death dream, but not seeing Nancy have the strength to get Freddy's hat. And it had to have been an accident.
Yeah.
She must have just been holding it and then woke up.
But now, see, at the same time, though, if there are so few deaths, you're kind of robbing by not giving the death dream sequence.
I agree.
Like, you're going to show a few deaths, but you're not really going to show, like...
Well, 1.8 million. I mean...
I get it, but, it's like...
At least we got to see him die.
Right.
And we don't necessarily know... Because that was an interesting one because he used the outside world to kill him.
Right.
It wasn't like, the cuts appeared because he was cutting them in their dream. It was using...
That was the blanket, right?
Yeah, it was the blanket that was wrapping around his neck.
Yeah.
So that was an interesting... I wish they would have shown it just for that, because it kind of shows that he can actually manipulate the outside world.
Right, and that would have been... But then again, they're also... thinking about it, I don't think that they showed it because they were showing it from Nancy's perspective and how weird it was for her to see him die but not be able to see Freddy because she herself is not dreaming, And so, but yeah, the ability to manipulate the world and not actually be physically present adds another layer of, like, fuck.
Yeah.
God damn it.
Not only really can't stop him.
Yeah, like, okay, so...
Which, I mean, kind of goes into the ending with the car and grabbing the mom through the window. Like, we're not entirely sure if that's a dream or not.
I think it's a dream.
It'd have to be, but it's such a weird setup. It's hard to say. But, so she finds the hat. and the mom takes it and puts it in a drawer in the kitchen.
God, the fucking mom. God. I mean, we shit on Rod a lot this episode.
Yeah, but we haven't even gotten to the mom yet.
Like, like, good God. Thinking about how mom was rough.
Well, she's so strange. Like, I get why, kind of. She's an alcoholic, probably because of the divorce and because of what happened with Freddie, when we'll get into that. But she just acts so strange.
Yeah.
But I love that.
Weirdly aggressive.
Yeah.
Like, why are you
like
being so mean
off-puttingly
about
mean.
it? Like, oh, sorry, Mom.
Like, this is happening. Well, what I don't get is they talk. I can't figure out if, because when they talk about this happening to them, the kids telling the parents about this, they act like they're crazy.
Yeah, but they know because
they know it's true.
That's what I was thinking, and if you weren't going to bring that up, I was.
Yeah,
like,
and that's I don't know if it's just crazy denial. Like, no, we killed him, so it can't be him.
Yeah, there's no way it could be him.
Yeah,
because then
because he's dead, so he can't do this to you anymore.
Right.
But they're saying, no, he's doing it to us in our dreams. But it's like, no, he can't be doing that.
No,
it's not happening. It's not happening. Shh.
Fingers up to the lips.
But I love that Nancy asks her mom where the hat is, and she doesn't tell her. Then Nancy immediately goes to the exact drawer in the kitchen where it is and takes it out.
Right.
like
my mom. It's like one of those like Ferris Bueller moments where she looks at the camera and she's like, "My mom sucks at this." Like she is not good at hiding things.
Oh, that's such a great movie.
It really is. It's almost a shame that they can't talk about it.
I know. So Nancy's mom telling her about what happened with Freddie. Why'd she keep the glove?
Because it's fucking awesome.
Well, I know why I have a version of the glove.
You do.
I bought it at a Halloween store, and it's awesome.
It is. I had one way back in the day, but it was it wasn't like the full glove. Like the way it was kind of like a really shitty. It was kind of like a really shitty glove, but then it had like little plastic attachers on that, and like if you weren't careful, you'd put your fingers through the holes in the glove, and then. I mean, it wasn't bad.
That's kind of how that one is. It's a cheapy plastic one that's
I had it
good enough.
Way back in the day, though.
So it was even cheaper plastic.
Oh yeah, I mean we're old.
Yeah.
And so like I mean, props have come a long way since then. But yeah, it's a pretty sweet glove.
Yeah. But it was. I think the reason the scene is so weird is because of the way she plays the mom, so off kilter. But, yeah, I don't know if you have anything to add to it. But.
No, I just like, I don't know if she's like drunk all the time and she just is like super upset denial. Like, I don't want to fucking talk about this. Like, I just remember watching the movie and thinking like, wow, she's brutal. Like, God, I would hate to be in a room with this woman for longer than a couple minutes.
Nancy comes home later, and there's bars all over all the windows.
Yeah. They're
like,
like, well, I thought you didn't believe me.
Yeah.
Why are we fucking barred in now?
And if he's in my dreams, isn't this worse?
Yeah. Like, how am I going to get out? And then didn't she like put a bunch of locks on the front door? So like.
Can't even get out the front door.
Yeah. This isn't like Jason or Michael where they're physically there, I
mean, I get not necessarily being able to wrap your head around the idea that he's killing them in their dreams.
Yeah.
So I kind of get the mom's reaction from that point of view because it's like the mom thinks that he's come back from the dead or that he didn't really die.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
And so it's actually him back.
Right.
But she's just not getting it. Like, even though Nancy says several times, my dreams, I can't sleep because of my dreams. He's going to get me in my dreams.
Right.
But it's, it's fine.
She's like, no, you're just crazy.
Yeah.
Go to sleep.
Go
to sleep.
I'm going to go put some bars on the windows. just enjoy that.
You look out the hallway, she's drinking again. Like, damn it, Mom.
Well, that happens, too.
Yeah, I know. When you look out in the hallway and she, like, it reminded me, like, it's almost like, oh, shit, what was it? old chick flick with Meg Ryan where she's a raging alcoholic, where like bottles are hidden in towels, and that's what it made me think of. Except for she was nicer.
Well, Meg Ryan's just a nicer person.
Well, yeah, I mean, she was obviously.
I just thought it was strange that she was hiding vodka in the freaking linen closet.
But see, that's not like it happened in that like in that movie with Meg Ryan.
Yeah. I thought it was strange until you said that.
Right, but I mean that's like random ass hiding places. So like when people try to take your booze, like no one's gonna think to look in the towels. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so it's like
but
the
problem I have with it is what happens when they need a towel. Like
there's one in the bathroom already, man.
It got dirty. It's wet now. I need a new towel.
Yeah, give me a new towel. And be like,
Oh, this one's got a bottle in it.
Hey,
I
Ma!
can't take that one.
why is there fucking vodka in the towels?
Keeps them fresh.
Fucking 80s versions of Unsentables or whatever the hell those things are called.
The new dryer sheets. It's just mini vodka bottles that you put in your dryer.
Fucking Monarch brand. Grey Goose came out with fucking dryer sheets.
If that's not a good idea, I don't know what is.
Yep.
Let's see. What's the next thing I got? I loved the "I'm your boyfriend now." That's an iconic line now.
Mm-hmm.
And then the tongue phone.
Right. But real quick, we kind of went off on a tangent, but like we didn't really like we asked why did she keep the glove, and then we went off onto her being an alcoholic. So just to like revisit on that real quick, like other than jokey things, I can't imagine why she would keep that glove or why she thought like.
That's the thing. That's why I wrote it down. I was like, okay, I get killing him.
But I mean, kitchen purposes, could you like imagine making dinner with like?
You could cut so many carrots.
Yeah, it's so fast too, man.
Yeah, all you have to do is like.
It's done.
It's just like tapping your fingers when you're nervous, and you just 17 carrots.
But like, didn't she have it in the
like the furnace? Yeah,
you can't cut carrots in the furnace, dude.
You can't. I've been doing so many things wrong with my life.
And why I don't stay for dinner. I'm just kidding. And so, okay, now we can go back to the phone tongue.
It's a cool. I mean, it's kind of hokey looking because it's the 80s.
Huge ass tongue too, like that.
Yeah. Like,
but yeah,
Gene Simmons.
Oh, good God, right? But no, that's one of those scenes that do stand out.
Yeah, I think it's one of those kind of more memorable, iconic moments in the whole franchise, and that's what's interesting about this first movie. Even more so than I think any other franchise, thinking back on some of the older horror franchises, tease up so many things that are used and reused throughout the series. The song, the dreams, the glove, the
Well, that's right, because in New Nightmare, they did the phone thing again, didn't they?
Yeah, I think so. It was a little different, but yeah.
It wasn't as hokey.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was made like 20 years later.
Well, yeah.
But I mean, even when you look at Friday the 13th, the things that became iconic in that franchise didn't really kick off until like the third one.
Right.
Halloween is a little different, but even that, it took some time to develop.
Well, and that because, I mean, that's a whole different can of worms there because, like, they made the first one. They weren't planning on making the second one. Then they made the second one, and then they made the third one, which was they were going to get
Season of the Witch.
Yeah, they were going to get rid of Myers completely, and then they were going to do Halloween anthology movies.
Right.
And it didn't go well, which they should have just called it something different.
It
Don't say nice. Halloween 3. Because, I mean, if I think, and I know this is off topic, but if you don't have that name, you could have just called it Season of the Witch.
Yeah. And it would have just been another forgettable horror movie.
I mean,
was just fine.
Don't make me pick that for the next movie and make you watch it because it's not, like, that movie itself is not bad.
Yeah. It's just not a Halloween movie.
Yeah, it shouldn't have been called Halloween 3. But then when that didn't do well and then they brought him back later and then they, fucking timeline on that movie. Don't even get me started.
We won't because we got to focus on this one. But that's my point, though, is that so many other franchises took so long to develop into what we know of them now.
Yeah.
Whereas this one, it just kicked right off. And they didn't plan on doing a sequel to this either. I don't think Craven even came back for 2. And
no, because 2 went into like a completely different direction, I think.
And he didn't come back until New Nightmare.
Right, which was in 94, which was 10 years later. 20 years later. 10 years later. I'm bad at math now.
10 years later.
10 years later. I'm like, is this 94? Is this 2004? I don't remember being 11.
What day is this? Where am I?
God.
Who are you?
Yeah. Huh?
7?
Right? I'm going to look up and see who did 2. But, yeah, he didn't come back for 10 years. And New Nightmare is one of my favorites in the entire thing.
Too.
Because just the concept. And I'm sure we'll talk about it at another point.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yes.
Freddy's Revenge, it came out a year later. It came out in 1985.
Oh.
Like, it came
no
out in 85,
kidding.
and it was directed... It was written by David Chaskin and characters, Wes Craven.
Yeah.
But then it was directed by Jack Shoulder, who isn't known.
Yeah, that doesn't even ring a bell.
Tremors, 2003.
No.
Wishmaster. Okay, yeah.
He's done some stuff.
He's done some things. But yeah, Tales from the Crypt. Yeah. But yeah, he that was Nightmare 2 came out a year later, and they did 5 in the span of between 1 and New Nightmare.
I'd have to
Or
think about
6, because there was because the original was in 84, 2 was in 85, 3 was in 87, 4 was in 88, and 5 was in 89, and 6 was in 91. So then, yeah, the final Nightmare was in 91, and then it went away for 3 years and then came back as New Nightmare, which I thought was a great movie in itself. But that's a lot of movies really close.
Yeah, which is why a lot of them are dipping in the quality department. But we'll get to those.
And
when
they
we
all
talk
do,
about those.
to be honest with you.
Every franchise has its stinkers. Friday the 13th.
Yeah. Well, and even Halloween.
Yeah.
I mean, like, thinking about that, like, some of the ideas that they could have went with and then didn't go with, but went with. I'm like,
it's so weird to think that, I mean, they're trying to reinvent it and keep it fresh while completely forgetting what makes it good in the first place.
yeah. And a lot of movies, unfortunately, fall victim to that. And it's sad.
But in this one, we get Glenn and Johnny Depp sucked into a bed.
Yeah.
And that's awesome.
The blood tornado, man. It's so rad.
It's freaking cool. It's another dream we don't get to see. But
was she in the room when that happened, or was he by himself?
he was by himself.
Okay, so then
His mom walked in and saw the blood everywhere.
right, but he just got sucked in. Do you see an arm come up and pull him down?
Mm-mm. It's like a hole opens up almost in the bed.
And I
he
just don't
gets...
remember, because I know that he gets sucked down, but I don't remember if like you could see an arm come up and pull him down. Okay, well,
Not that I remember.
see, and now that kind of contradicts though, because if there's not anybody there to see the dream, then you should be able to see the dream because there's no other perspective to see it from.
Well, yeah, but it almost goes to him being able to bend reality,
And
then
manipulate the physical world.
yeah, because the blood geyser thing happens in the real world because the mom walks in and sees it.
Oh yeah,
And there's no body. It's just his blood everywhere.
Freddie likes to pull people into beds.
Who doesn't?
Hi-oh. All right. I see you. I'm going to go now.
I would.
Yeah.
But it is still a cool death. And then I found this, like, so Nancy has this idea after pulling the hat out of the dream to, okay, now I can pull him out of my dream and make him appear before me, and then I'm going to kill him or show him to the cops or something.
Right. She's going to bring him into the physical world. Sorry about that. But
That's okay. But she does an amazing amount of work because she says, like, wake me up in 20 minutes. She talks to her dad after Glenn is exploded in the bed. And
should we talk about the parents, like Glenn's parents, when she calls over there, it's like, stop calling my boy. Like, the dad was very against Nancy. Like, she's a crazy girl. I'd stay away from my son.
He even called her that. Like, she's one of them crazy girls. I guess you're next door to a house with bars on the windows.
Yeah,
and,
good job, Mom.
Yeah.
You're fucking not doing any favors for your kid now.
Well, she's passed out on the couch and then
fucking
just
bottle of vodka in
disappears.
the hand.
So, yeah. The parents are so strange in this movie.
Yeah, they really are.
Well, I mean, there's all of these gruesome deaths, and her dad, who is a cop, is just like, "Oh, just
Same
go over
emotion
there,
the
honey.
entire movie.
Yeah,
Like,
it's fine. Don't worry about it. It's cool. Just go in there."
and like John Saxon, like they're all, they're all decent actors. Like, it's
Yeah.
not like they don't have the range to play a character.
Yeah.
But nobody, I mean, Nancy has two temperaments, calm, and then why don't you believe me? And then John Saxon just like being like 80s version of like Hot Cop.
Yeah.
Like I remember because I did a community night streaming this movie with some of my friends on Rabbit, and like just talking about like, oh, John Saxon, like, he's just basically the same person throughout the entire movie. And you would think that if, like, I know that if my daughter was tripping balls about something that was happening and all of her friends around her were dying.
Yeah. You might listen.
Yeah, I might
go like,
listen and I might stop smoldering for a little bit and be like, what's going on here?
Yeah, they all say they're dying in their dreams. There's no weapons anywhere.
Right.
It's very gruesome. They're all seeing the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm going to go back to cop work. It's fine. I
I'm
need
just
a
going to
donut.
stand here in the fucking doorway.
But Nancy says, wake me up in 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
She home alones the whole house.
Oh, that's right. Oh, I totally forgot. I'm like, holy shit. Oh my God.
The mom disappeared. I guess went to bed because we see her later in bed.
Mm-hmm.
And then is able to fall asleep inside of that 20 minutes and have her dream and pull out Freddy. Like, I can barely fall asleep inside an hour. When I lay down to sleep, I know she hasn't slept in a couple days.
Right.
But, like, it usually takes me a good half hour to get some solid Z's going.
Right, yeah.
And I'm not,
it's time to wind down.
Yeah.
I mean, like...
And I'm not Jimmy rigging the whole house like I'm Macaulay Culkin or anything.
Just picture you scooting around the house, hanging fucking paint cans from the fucking stairs. Your wife,
Jack's
what are you,
on the steps.
Your wife's like, what are you doing? I'm like, shh, go back to bed. Don't worry about me.
I'm catching Freddy.
I hate you. Oh, that's not a direct reference, but close enough.
But this goes into the basement in a basement that I was talking about earlier in the school.
Right, yeah, and you talked about the deeper repression and the thing. Like, I don't remember this scene in particular, but
Yeah. Well, because she's in their house, Nancy's in her house, and then she goes into the basement of her house. Mm-hmm. And then apparently that basement has another basement, which is the boiler room.
Every fucking house in this city has a boiler room.
I have one. We're in it right now. That's why it's so hot in here.
God.
It
did warm up a little bit. Like, it was an icebox when I got in here before.
It's because we're talking about Freddy and it's getting hot.
Oh.
But it was clever, I think. It made me... It didn't so much hit me in the school when it was the basement inside the school for some reason.
Right.
But with this one, it was like, okay, she's already in her basement of her house. Mm-hmm. I've been to several houses. Very few, if any, have had a basement inside of that basement.
Yeah, because, I mean, if you have a basement...
That's
like,
the basement.
That is... Yeah.
That's why it's called base.
Right.
It's the bottom.
And, like, I get maybe having a parallel crawl space on another side, not generally anything going underneath any further.
Sure.
And, yeah, so, like, when you're in the basement, generally the floor above you... Yeah.
So that's what made me think about the idea of this descending into the dream world and into Freddy's world, and I thought that was a really nice touch. For all of its quirkiness that this movie has, it has those little gems that is why it's so freaking cool. I'm looking through my notes. You can bring one of these up too. We're almost to the end though.
Yeah.
I liked Nancy in her facing of Jason. Wow, Freddy. It's getting we're springing around too much.
We really are. But hey, you know what? It's gonna happen. Natural. Like we're not going off. Like we have notes, but we're not going off a script. So sometimes tangents will be had.
Indeed.
And so
several times this hour.
You're not kidding. But yeah, the Nancy Kruger showdown.
Mm-hmm. It wasn't quite as badass as I was kind of hoping, and I think the remake does it better.
Okay.
It makes it more, and again, it's because they can go creepy with it in a way that this movie couldn't.
Okay.
But I do like their kind of confrontation. My problem with it, I guess, is that you don't get as much a sense of history between them.
Yeah.
Because in theory, the reason that the parents would have killed Freddy is because they were messing with their kids, or kids were coming up missing, and so that he couldn't get to their kids.
Right, they just kind of
it was like preventative measures, but
at the same time though, like if you think about the final girls, like Lori, all she did was run from Michael.
Yeah,
like they didn't have a showdown until 40 years later.
Yeah,
you know, what was it? There was one in Friday the 13th, but it wasn't with Jason.
No.
You know, and so she never had a showdown. So I mean, like, not many actually confronted.
Yeah,
there.
Especially back in the day.
Right.
I mean, Sydney gets one.
Yeah, but that was like what, late 90s?
And that's orchestrated.
Midnight? Yeah, and so, but yeah, that's it may not have been the most epic, but at least like she.
Stood her ground and
stood her
did
ground.
her shit.
She didn't run. And
she accomplished her goal. She brought him to the real world, for better or worse.
Yeah.
And then she screams to a cop for help who just looks at her and goes, huh? And then walks away.
Like, hey, you see this fucking really weird looking dude laying on the ground here all burnt up? Fucking...
Do something about that.
Yeah.
No, that's fine.
Yeah,
Did you notice that, though?
Yeah, she couldn't get any help to save her life. Literally.
Yeah.
But no, seriously, yeah, there's like...
The deputy just like looks at her and goes, I know she's screaming for help, and this kid behind us was just exploded into his bed with no body in sight.
Right.
And no
look
killer.
At his name tag, it says Dewey. Like, okay, this makes sense.
I knew that looked like David Arquette.
His dad.
And she pulls kind of a Michael Myers move and charbroils him in the basement.
Yeah.
Oh, that was pretty cool.
Oh, yeah. That was, yeah.
Okay.
I don't remember. I do, but like, I was reading the next one, running through.
Well, because... So she lights him. I'm trying to remember why the rest of the house is on fire.
Because Freddy's on fire.
Well, yeah, but wasn't he in the basement? And then he follows her?
Doesn't he chase her on fire?
I think so.
Or am I mixing my...
Yeah, I think he does. Yeah, because
of footsteps. There's
and there's
footsteps.
Yeah,
okay,
so that must be it. Okay. Right. Or if nothing else, he gets out of the basement whilst on fire and goes upstairs, because that's when we have the mom getting sucked into the bed as a skeleton.
Right, which was super
And he was still on fire.
But wasn't he on top? He was on top of her on fire.
Yeah.
And that's how burnt her to skeletal mummy remains.
That makes more sense. She's not just randomly a skeleton now.
Yeah, they followed the flaming footsteps up the stairs and they walked in and he was laying on top of her and she was screaming and then, burning up. And then I don't remember what happened after that, like how he got off of her.
I don't either.
But then you do see the classic 80s like
strobe lights.
Yeah, and then like fog machine and like I'm like that looks like a prop from like a Halloween house or something.
Well, I guess the idea would be that he went back into the dream world through the mom, I guess.
Yeah. Potentially. I mean, he could have popped back through before she died completely. Like, did she pass out?
Well, no, I mean, he must still be there because then Nancy has to have her confrontation with him. Mm-hmm. And this is the part that made me kind of go, huh? And we'll talk about it more in the scorecard.
Right.
But she just kind of randomly realizes that to not pay attention to him is what will make him lose his power. Okay. And that's something that I feel is more fleshed out in the series later on. But in this, it just, to me, and I got it.
Yeah, it was out of nowhere. Yeah, that makes sense. Like, I wonder.
It's like when House just happens to come across the right diagnosis, like out of thin air.
Right.
It's.
I wonder if I stop looking at Justin,
he'll disappear in a weird blue mist.
Well,
but he could.
Where'd it go?
Do you see the blue sparkles? If you don't see the blue sparkles, I'm still here.
Yeah, you're still here, unfortunately. But yeah, the mom being sucked in the bed was pretty cool. And that leading up into one of my favorite parts of the movie with the Freddy car.
Yeah.
That convertible, when that top popped up, I was like, oh, yeah.
It doesn't make sense at all.
No, but it gets its point across. Like, what was it? It was red. The car.
Yeah, it was red or weird orange.
Right. It was I don't think it might have been red because it maybe almost like the cap strap on your bucket there.
So like a red orange.
Something like that because it I remember visually it like obviously with when the top went up and it being the color of Freddy's sweater, like the red green, it clashed with the car really bad.
Yeah.
Like I don't remember exactly.
It just didn't flow.
Yeah. Like, I mean, it was cool as shit, but I'm like, okay.
It's like wearing a dress with jeans. Just
what the fuck, dude?
I don't know.
No, I don't like it. If I can see you at work tomorrow or on fucking Monday, you'll be like, you doing, bud? You're like, I'm comfortable. I'm doing numbers.
Yeah, we're going to be here a while. I love the scene because, again, it's another iconic thing of this franchise of the car, and then it goes off to the girls jumping rope, and then the mom gets sucked through the window.
It was red.
It was a red car?
Yeah, it was red. Like, looking at a picture of it, it looks better when it's closed, but I just remember it's almost like when the hood goes up, it's like, it looks different.
Well, the red on the top of the cover is so prominent that it does kind of make it look more of an orangey.
Yeah, it definitely does make the car look a little bit different.
Yeah.
But then when you look at a picture of the car itself, when the hood isn't up, like there's a picture where you can just see what looks to be Nancy looking outside and not looking at that. Like, okay, that's red. But then when you look at the top, like,
no, that's red.
Oh, what the fuck? Right.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I love the ending. I think it's really cool, especially when he pulls the mom through the window.
Oh, yeah. That was super cool.
It just doesn't make sense. When did she fall back asleep? Did it not? I mean, obviously, the implication is he's not dead.
Right. I mean, it was a really cool way to leave it being like, you know, if this is it, this is it. But, you know, he's not dead.
Yeah.
But then, of course,
nightmares never die.
Oh, good. Right?
I got a million of them. You'll hear them throughout the
do.
series.
Okay. I'm looking forward to them, not at all.
When you leave?
Soon enough. You can't get rid of me. You want to do episode 2 after this?
Sure, why not? I haven't watched the movie yet, but we can do it.
Right.
So that's it. That's pretty much our summary, long-ass summary of the movie.
Yeah, that did go a little bit more than what I expected. But
well, we got a deep dive. You know, we're just talking about the one thing. We got to really dig in.
It's like, you know, breaking it down. 2/3 of it was a nightmare. 1/3 everything else. Like, we went off into so many different. Well, me especially.
Yeah, we did, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. You.
So now that we've talked about the movie, it's time for our pod and scorecard or our Gore scorecard. I don't know. It's gonna have like several different names.
Yeah, while we fine tune it, we will definitely go.
I think pod and scorecard makes the most sense, but that's me. I'm sure you'll change it next week or next episode with yours.
I'll be like, fuck that. This is what I'm going to call it this week. Each week we will passively, aggressively
change it on purpose.
And so, all right, go ahead and go off with
So, We rank several different things. For those that didn't listen to episode 0, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, like 6 different things. Best kill, most wanted to die, most wanted to live, grossest moment, a couple others. So at the end of every episode, we'll talk about that and rank different scenarios from the movie.
Right. And obviously with this being Nightmare and it having dreams, it's kind of where we were going with it in the intro, talking about movie-specific categories. Like this one, obviously, best dream sequence.
Yeah.
You know, like you're not going to have
Some are going to be easier than others, but
Yeah,
like this
exactly.
one's easy because
Yeah.
best dream, because not a lot have dreams, but
Right. So,
best machete look.
Right.
It looked the shiniest here.
And so go ahead and kick it off with your best kill.
My best kill, hands down, and I kind of gave it away when we were talking about it, but maybe you forgot because
Yeah, you
it's been a long
spoiled it.
time.
Yeah, you're like, I'm not talking about this later when I get to my scorecard, but
Tina on the Ceiling is so visually interesting, and it grips you in a way that the other ones, I don't think, they're not as visceral, you know.
well, yeah, and with the fact of like Rod freaking out while it's going on, just sitting there like, what the hell?
Yeah.
You know, I could see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's
so,
yours?
So my best kill, my favorite kill, was Johnny Depp being sucked into the bed and the blood tornado coming out of it, just shooting straight up like that. I was like, oh, okay, that's really cool. Side note, makes me really curious to see when It Chapter 2 comes out. Like this scene, a lot of blood.
Yeah.
Shining, blood elevator, a lot of blood. This coming up boasts to have the most blood in a movie scene.
Really?
Yeah, so I'm very curious to see where they're going to go with that. But yeah,
It's
back
just like a swimming pool.
yeah, blood oceans. But yeah, best kill that for me was
Glenn.
poor Glenn. Babyface getting just.
All he wanted to do was watch TV with his headphones on.
Well, didn't he tell his mom that he was watching like it was like
some like girl.
yeah, it was like a girl
Beauty
pageant,
pageant.
or like I thought like some softcore shit or something. Like he was just like, oh, just watching some chicks on TV. Like, okay.
We don't need, and he says something very sexist and horrible. Like, it doesn't matter what they say.
Right?
I'm not listening for their words. I'm just looking at them.
Yeah. Very 1984.
Yeah. Most wanted to die was, and I think we're going to share this one, but I actually have some remorse over it. It's Rod.
Yeah, mine is also Rod, and there is no remorse for it. And
I feel bad because he gets kind of steamrolled on this movie. He's obviously a dickhead, but
right, but that's also poor life choices. Like maybe if you didn't play the part, you wouldn't be accused of
being a dickhead.
yeah, exactly.
Fair
And
enough.
twirling lawnmowers at people and shit.
Well, I think then we might also agree on our most wanted to live, which is Glenn.
Babyface. Yeah.
Like he's so innocent.
He was like
It's because of that little sexist jab he had.
that was that
If
one
this
right
was
there
a Friday the 13th movie, it would definitely be that scene, that little line.
would have got him killed. But leading up to that, he was almost more like he came off more innocent than Nancy. Like he was like holy shit. Like
Well, you never saw any of his dreams. He kind of talked about them, but he almost kind of acted like they didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
And he was there for Nancy, even though he was kind of like, you're kind of crazy and I don't believe you, but you're my girl, so I'll sure.
I gotcha.
Yeah, I got you. I'll do whatever, even though he fell asleep when he was supposed to wake her up.
Mm-hmm.
But still, it's there.
Yeah.
Grossest moment was hard for me because I didn't find anything particularly gross, but I ended up going with the Tina's pile of snakes and the centipede coming out of her mouth because I'm not a big bug person.
Right.
And a bug in my mouth is, especially a centipede that big.
Just yeah.
I don't want that.
Yeah, I until you said that I didn't remember exactly that part. But yeah, a pile of snakes. I'm not a snake guy at all. I'm, never been a fan. I things that can bite me, I've never been big on, like people have like snakes or spiders as pets and I'm like no,
What's wrong with cats?
Yeah, or dogs. I'm a dog guy.
I got cats.
I know you do. Just as a cat lady.
Mm-hmm.
I would have to say
But I'm not crazy yet.
That's debatable. So I'm kind of teetering here. Like initially, I thought because I'm in the same boat. Like I didn't find anything gross.
Yeah.
Like it's pretty. I mean, there was some crazy things, but overall, it's pretty tame. So, like, I'm kind of torn between either the fountain of blood coming out of the bed,
Yeah.
which is in reality, if you saw that, that'd be disgusting.
Yeah.
But
Smell bad too.
oh god, the irony. But the other thing too would probably be Freddy burning the mom.
Mm.
Like that was pretty metal,
Yeah, that's pretty brutal.
right? Just laying like
Even though I'm kind of happy about it because she was a crazy biatch.
yeah, like you're like, oh, I could see her, deserving it, but like going out like that's pretty rough. Like some dude on fire laying on top of you.
That's
it's like
good.
it's like a Dutch oven you can't escape. But you're gonna melt to death. And so,
Just like in real life.
right? Which then leads us to
Our dumbest moment. Just like my joke.
right.
What did you think it led us to? The best dream?
Yeah, I totally forgot the dumbest moment. I'm all like, oh, we're almost done. I'm looking at the
We
last
are almost done.
no.
Did you not have a dumbest moment?
No, I was waiting for you to
Okay.
read yours off.
Mine is Nancy taking away the bad energy. As we talked about just a little bit ago, it seems to come out of nowhere, unless there's a part I missed, which if there is, please yell at me on the internet. But like you said, she just happens to have this idea, if I stop looking at him, he'll go away.
Right? Yeah, because
Just like any good killer, if I stop looking at Michael Myers, even if you stop looking at Mike Myers, he might stop making bad movies. But
oh my god,
you stop looking
you
at,
love to
at
take your
Ghostface,
jabs, right?
He's just going to go away. He won't
Yeah.
stab me in the back. That's not what he does.
That's true.
And then he just dissipates into this yellow mist.
Missed. The dumbest moment for me, like thinking back, nothing took me out of the movie more than just some of the dialogue. Mostly Rod. Mostly Rod. Like some of the shit that he said. But then again, at the same time, like the dumbest shit he said came from like the best back and forth of the movie. Yeah. When, he's like, I woke up with a heart on and it had your name on it. And then she's like, well, my name's got 4 letters, joint ain't that big. And then fucking Johnny Depp laughs at him, or Glenn, and then he gets all pissed off and then does the whole fucking twirling lawnmower bit. And it's like, that is the worst way you can end that sequence right there, is to be like, yeah,
Hey, forget about it.
Forget about the fucking lawnmowers and shit.
Right up your rear there.
Yeah, and there were a few more that happened like that.
I almost picked the parents because they're so irritatingly stupid throughout the entire
and then
movie.
If you do that, you could also do the inept fucking, like, the deputy that just stands there and like,
oh, screaming girl needing help. I'll go inside and see what they're doing.
Yeah, like they definitely didn't portray police in the best of light back in the 80s, did they? And so, but yeah, that's all I got for that.
Okay. So our last segment of the Gore card is the franchise-specific one, which is best dream sequence. And mine is Tina's first dream, which opened up the movie.
Which was really eerie. Like,
that's the thing. It was the creepiest. It was the scariest. You didn't know what was going on.
Like that sheep walking across the hallway.
For some reason.
Like, out of, like, okay. Like this, like that right there just lets you know shit's going to get real weird.
Yeah. You never really get a good shot of Freddy in that scene. He's always in the shadows. You kind of see bits and pieces of him. And it sets the tone for the movie that the rest of the movie doesn't always live up to, but that initial run-in with him is the creepiest.
And honestly, like, of course they're not going to not show Freddy.
Right.
But when it comes to keeping the killer a mystery, it leaves so much to the imagination to where, like, it's a little more scary because you're like,
Yeah.
Jeepers Creepers, for example. Like, and like when you just see the outline of him, like you can't really make out any distinct anything other than the jacket, the hat, and the white hair.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't until that was gone and then he looked like a fucking
Birdman.
yeah, the fucking looked like the dinosaur that spit on fucking Newman. Like up until that point, or the fact that he had wings, I'm like, oh damn it, like I get it, but like.
One stroke too far.
Yeah, like when there's a little bit of mystery to it, like
it's Wolverine syndrome. Like he's cooler when there's some mystery, and then when you reveal that mystery, if it doesn't live up to what's in your head, it's
a
bad.
big old fucking letdown. Yeah, but like what you're talking about when they just show like the eyes or something like that, like there's just something about that that's like, okay, that's creepy.
Mm-hmm.
My best dream sequence, or my favorite, I probably think is the end with the mom being sucked in through the door, the Freddy car, everybody freaking out. Like
it is pretty bananas,
right? And thinking about it, isn't okay? So they ended 1 with the Freddy car, but didn't they start 2 with the Freddy bus? Was that 2?
I think I haven't seen 2 in such a long time.
I want to say that I
yes
think
or no.
but
that sounds familiar.
That they started it with the Freddy bus driver.
Probably, that wouldn't surprise me in the least, because it was a standout scene in the last one. So why not just try and rip it off in the next
Freddy
one?
Too. Yeah, started out with the crazy bus. Okay.
All right.
Well, look at me
Good
putting
job,
shit.
Brandon.
Look at me putting shit together. And so, but yeah, that was probably just my favorite because the car, like when the hood goes up and it's Freddy's colors, and it's like, okay, that's clever.
It's going down.
Some shit's about to happen.
And then he pulls the mom through the window.
Yeah, just
get over here.
Yeah, and it's like, well, it's a dream because she already died, but like that was a small window.
Yeah,
that
really didn't feel good.
No, I'm like, you do that to me, we're gonna need a bigger door. Like, yeah, that was just overall pretty cool. And then the car driving off and they're banging on the windows, and I just thought it was a good
cap.
Yeah, good way to end it. But now thinking about how they started out too with the bus, it's kind of funny being like, okay, we got a car theme here. And so, but yeah, that's what I got.
Fair enough. Well, I think unless we have anything else to add, that's it.
No, that'll be the end of it.
That is a wrap on the first episode.
That's everything. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us.
Indeed. So
we do end each episode with our next week's topic.
Yeah.
So
did you finally settle on what your first movie's going to be?
Before it started, yeah.
Maybe I'm playing it up for the audience, you dickhead.
Oh, well, God damn it. I don't know you. I don't know your tricks. But we end each episode leading into the next episode.
Yeah, and since I picked this movie, you get to pick the next movie.
Right, and our next movie is going to be one that is kind of a... Like, I love all horror movies, but this one's kind of got a special spot in my heart, my life. I grew up with this movie. And the thing that caught my attention was the name of it, because I'm like, wow, okay. This definitely has nothing to do with what I thought it had anything to do with. And I'm like, is this like an adult play on it? I'm like, okay. And then I watched it and I'm like, this was back when they did Vampires Right. And we're going to do The Lost Boys.
Yeah. And spoiler alert, I have not seen this movie.
I'm going to fucking hit you.
Well, I'm about to see it.
With your Captain America shield right over there. I'm going to throw it at you like a Frisbee.
It's fine. I'll catch it.
You won't. 'Cause there's a lot of shields laying around here. And so...
yeah, so this will be kind of a fun opportunity for me. And I think that's one of the nice things about this show is going to be, I'm going to pick some stuff, some kind of random indie horror movies that hopefully you haven't seen.
Right. And there's a lot. Like, I mean, we both love horror, but like...
There's so much of it.
There's so much. And, at some point we would like to get your feedback.
Yeah.
Let us know what you want to know.
Mm-hmm.
If there's a specific episode you'd like us to do, like if there's a list of something you want covered, like we'll give you the information of where to get a hold of us at. But we definitely want that interaction, and it'll break up the I pick, you pick,
Yeah.
back and forth. And so
Yeah.
I think that would be a lot of fun. But yeah, next week we're going to do Lost Boys.
Heck yeah.
I am excited.
I am too.
And so, all right. Well, thanks again for hanging out with us.
See you next time.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you for checking out Pod and Gore. You can find us on Facebook at Pod and Gore, as well as on Instagram and Twitter at Gore_pod.